Episode 4 of School of Fish. Today I'm with my guy Carson Conklin from Sac State. Conk, your hair is glorious. I love you. I want to break down a little bit of your background. You are a former Centennial Husky. You are a former Jerry Rice Award finalist, which is a one of the top awards in the FCS world. It's pretty much best player or best freshman player of the FCS, I think.
Hmm.
Right, freshman,
Yep.
top freshman player in the country. And now you are getting ready to lead Sac State this year in its first ever FBS move to the MAC. Welcome to the show, pal.
Thanks for having me, Fishman. I appreciate it.
Yeah, buddy. It's good to have you. Okay, so I did a little bit of digging. I see that you're really getting into golf lately. I
I
see,
am.
I
I
see
am.
that. Now, is
I've got
that
the itch.
is that a new hobby, or is that something you've been getting after, or what? How's it been going with, where you're at? What's your handicap, and how does golf? Seems like there's a lot of quarterbacks that play golf. I'm terrible at golf. My neighbor always wants me to come out. I'm just starting to kind of feel it, but how does it relate to playing the quarterback position?
So I started golfing probably my freshman year at Sac State, but I wasn't good. Like I didn't take it very seriously. That was just kind of out there for the vibes. But pretty recently, probably like a year and a half ago, like I've started taking it pretty seriously and like trying to get better at it. But let me say it's a lot harder than people think to like be pretty good at it and be consistent at it. But I like it so much just because it's a competitive piece outside of football. Like it kind of gets my mind off of it, but I'm still able to compete, whether it's with myself or whoever I'm playing with. And the one thing I love about golf that relates so much to football is it's always like a next shot mentality or like a next play mentality. Like if you go and you hit a bad shot, it's like, oh, but like that sucks. But guess what? You get to go hit another one. Just like in football, like let's say you go and you throw a pick, but you're going to be right back out there, going ready to score again. So you always got to have that next play mentality. And I think that's probably one of the best things about golf to me.
And you've always seemed to have that to me where you don't get too high, too low. You're on to the next throw, next series, next drive.
Hmm.
So I can see that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, your dad was a hooper. He hooped at USC. Your dad is a large man, one of the largest men I've ever been around. All around, just big arms, big hands, and a great guy. Your brother also played football at Louisiana Monroe. Um, I never asked you this, but what was that like? You were around two former Division I guys. Was everything just hyper competitive in the Conklin household?
Oh yeah, all the time, every day, all day. We're always competing in something, whether it was tackle football in the living room or, Nerf wars, whatever we were doing, playing video games, all that kind of stuff. But one thing about my dad is that like he was very like on me about like how I was on the field. Like he always like pushed me to be like the loudest guy, like the hardest working, like and as a kid, like I was like, oh, this sucks. Like he's always yelling at me, blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. But look, now that I'm older, like I'm really grateful for it because without him pushing me like that, like I wouldn't have been able to make it this far and be able to push myself to the level that I do because I always look at it like I'm never good enough and I always get to be better. And I get that from him.
I've got to know your parents really well. You're really lucky. You've got great parents. You got a great support cast, and they definitely have your back. And that's a blessing. Um, all right, let's talk about high school. You played at Corona Centennial, which is a powerhouse, national powerhouse. I mean,
Hmm.
usually top 10 in the country year in and year out. Um, Play some of the toughest teams in the country.
Hmm.
No, you were constantly, and I remember having conversations with you almost weekly. It's like you were in the middle of a QB battle your senior year with another Division I quarterback, and he was a good player. What was it like for you going through that, and the factors that you had to deal with? How did that help you contribute to the next level, getting used to the day in grind, having to be focused to compete and try to win a job?
Hmm. No, it helped me a lot, especially because, that's how Centennial always kind of has been. They've always kind of done the two QB rotation kind of thing. And I never got it. Like when I was there, like when I was in it, like I was like, oh, this is kind of stupid. Like, just like there's always someone in the room that thinks they should be the guy. But it taught me two things is that the first thing is that there's always going to be competition no matter where you go, what is going on, wherever school you're at. Like it's always going to be someone's going to try to take your job or you're trying to take their job kind of thing. And that really opened my eyes to that because we had to come in every day and compete because we didn't know who was starting the next game until the day of the game. So we had to go to practice every day like we were the guy. And it honestly got me into that good mindset of, taking that approach to it that every time I step on the field, like, this is my team, this is my offense, so I'm going to run it like that. And then the second thing about Centennial was so great about being such a powerhouse is that, like, it's a public school in the Inland Empire. Like it's not a private school to where, you can, bring in players, that kind of thing. Like you can't really recruit anyone because the rules are just different for public schools. So the thing about Centennial is that everyone we had on our team was like local. Like they were local kids. And so it made it that much more like inspiring for all of us is because, we're all from the same area. We all played youth ball together, that kind of thing. Like so like we all, you know, came in with that mentality of like it's us against everybody. And that's the great part about Centennial is this that the culture there is a winning culture, and their standard is a lot higher than everyone else's, which is why they're so good every year.
Yeah, Corona is such a unique place in Los Angeles because like you said it, there private schools run the show out here. And
Hmm.
it is the one school that is basically a Trinity League school that is not a private enterprise that recruits everywhere. And
Yeah,
culture there is one of the rare places in Southern California where um, I forget what the coach, but I know Catalano really well.
Coach
Who's the
Logan,
coach that's been there forever?
Coach Logan, Matt Logan.
Coach Logan, right? So I mean, the
Hmm.
kid's been there. He's a legend there. It looks like Cat is going to be running with the baton. He's doing a great job over there. But the pride that comes from Centennial is just a different type of there's a community there which is really unique. If you know anything about Southern California football, you just don't see it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So coming out of that, you had, if I tried to remember, you had some P4 scholarships. I remember Tulane coming in late. I think Cincinnati, Tulane, I think even Kansas and Arizona State offered you. You pulled the trigger on Sac State late. What was, walk me through that decision again. What did you see in Sac State that other schools didn't offer you?
So my senior year of high school, I broke my collarbone like halfway through the season, and I was really gonna try to use my senior year as like that one, late year to where I'd see how many offers I can get, like really ball out, and I was, and then I got hurt, so I missed, a good amount of opportunities to get more film. And once I got hurt, those schools that did offer me kind of, washed to the side. I wasn't really hearing from them as much. I mean, you know how that goes. But, Sac State was, one of the only schools that was really still interested. Like they still believed in me and they realized that like that injury wasn't gonna, hold me back in any sort of way. And, once I went out there and saw everything and, saw how much they actually appreciated me and wanted me there and be a part of that, it was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I remember that, and it felt good at that point to feel wanted. I tell
Yeah.
all the guys here, it's like you're going to go through the ups and downs. You're going to get recruited early. You might get offers early that you really love, but you'll know when it's that crunch time who really wants you, and it's important to recognize that.
Hmm.
Um, Now I want to talk to you a little bit about there was a pivotal time during your redshirt freshman season. You guys were at Fresno State. The starter goes down when you're the backup at Sac State at this time.
Hmm.
You jump in and you go for like 220 yards, three tubs. You did your thing. You lose the game, but you kind of put yourself on the map that game that you could handle that environment, fill in. You weren't it wasn't too big for you, and you end up taking the job the rest of the season. Like, how were you able to stay prepared just for that moment when you weren't the guy up until that moment? And what did you have to do when that opportunity brought itself? Like, where were you mentally?
So I think the biggest thing for me is, that preparation beforehand, like just kind of I was talking about at Centennial, like we both had to come like we were the guy. So preparing during high school and Centennial, like we played like good schools. Like we played the Mater Days, the Mission Viejos, Bosco's, all like those schools. So you had to prepare like you were at a Division I school because all those kids are all Division I players. And so I learned the preparation, just staying in that mindset like I am the guy. And it carried over to college because I didn't really have a choice because and the college level, everyone's good. They wouldn't be there if they weren't. So I had to prepare every week like I was playing, modern day. And that's just still my mindset now, and it always will be my mindset, just, staying prepared because if you're not prepared, then you're just setting yourself up for failure.
100%. Okay, so then jump to you finish a great season at Sac State. You get in the portal. You say, I'm ready to go FBS. You actually end up going to Fresno State and you get your number called. You end up winning, up at Boise. You win against Wyoming. I think you won two or three in a row, and then they go back with the other guy, EJ Warner, a little older than you. What's that like, Conk? When you're winning games, you feel like you're doing your job. I would, if I think if we were both honest, you would still say you probably could have played better, but at the end of the day, you were putting wins, and they still go with another guy. What's that like when you're at that place when that's going on?
Um, I mean, there's not much you can really do, to be honest. You just gotta try to keep a level mind, again, it's the same approach. You just, those first couple weeks when I wasn't the guy, I was still preparing like I was. And then so that's when my number did get called. I didn't perform, to my standard. But like you said, I was still getting wins, and obviously I would want to go back and, perform better. But you can't really do anything after the whistle blows. So you just got to come back the next week and just prepare as much as you can. And unfortunately, the coaches thought that they had a better opportunity with EJ. Which I mean, I love EJ. I've learned a bunch of stuff from him. He's taught me so much about the X's and O's of football. We still talk on the phone all the time, but it's just, they think what's better. You just got to go with it, and you got to be a team player at that point. Because if your teammates come around, everyone finds out what's happened, like they see it happening. So you could either hang your head and you be like, "Damn, my life sucks," or you can, make the best out of it. So that's what I try to do. Try to keep my head up, for my team, and luckily we finished strong.
Yeah. And I was really proud of you during that time because I think it was probably the first time for you where it's big. Fresno State football, for people who don't really understand, like it's big time football. There's a big fan base, there's pressure,
Hmm.
and there's a quarterback legacy there.
Hmm.
And you feel it. You feel it there. And even when winning games, you're still going to feel criticism. And it's I thought it was really good for you and really good for your mom because I remember talking with your mom a lot and she loves you so much. And like all good moms, they're going to be defensive of their babies. But it was that first time where they're like, holy smokes, like you feel it. And
Yeah.
that was, I think that's just another opportunity that you're able to go through and mature through it.
Hmm.
So from there, the prodigal son returns home to Sac State. You go back. We both have a great relationship with the quarterback coach there who recruited you, Bobby Frescus. He loves
Hmm.
you. He's always believed in you. You've put up thousands of yards in his offense, and his style of coaching is right up your alley. He gets you back home. Um, you're in the MAC for the first time. It's the first time Sac State's ever been in the FBS program. You're the guy there. What were some of the reasons, obviously besides that, and you can talk about that, but both new and old for coming back home to Sac State?
Um, once I decided to get in the portal of Fresno, I tried to go back on, how my mindset was coming out of high school and the whole recruiting aspect of it. Because coming out of Fresno, I didn't have a lot of film, compared to some of the other guys in the portal. So I knew I wasn't gonna, get any, big time offers to go be the guy somewhere. And that's just what I wanted because out of high school, I just wanted to play the game, you know. I just wanted to play football, and I'm not a big fan of, just sitting on the sideline in a red shirt in a couple years and waiting my turn. I just wanted to go prove myself because that's what I've had to do, my whole life is just prove people wrong. So I wanted to do that again. And once I got into the portal, Bobby Frescas and the coaches at Sacramento State were like, "Yo, like it's a lot different than when you were last here. Like we want you to come see it, come meet the new coaches." And they took me on a visit, and that's when I met Coach Zoe and Coach Keesaw and Bobby Frescas. Those are my guys, and they just made it feel like home again. It was that same feeling of being wanted and being cherished for who I am and what I can bring to the table, and they really did that. And It, to say the least, it wasn't a hard decision.
And I use you as an example of how cutthroat college football is.
Hmm.
You were a All-American Jerry Rice Award finalist. A new coaching staff comes in. You did everything you could do to be solidified as obviously the guy, and they still brought in a portal guy that had a big name that hadn't done anything, but still had a hype around his name and made you feel like you weren't the guy. And I use that as an example of you guys need to understand how important it is not to just be at a school that you like, but to be around a staff that recruited you personally because they know what you can do and who you are.
Hmm.
And it's just a wild business that you can be the top of the food chain, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and still have a new staff come in and they may not like you because you're not the guy that they recruited out of high school. They're not the guy that they wanted. And it just, you just have to be ready at all times. And I just use that for a lot of reasons because no matter how well you play, like you said earlier in this pod, like you got to prepare yourself like there's always someone on your heels.
Hmm.
And that was a huge thing to see. And I thought you handled that really well. And it showed me we're in a whole new era of college football.
Yeah.
Um, so with all of that, what now that you've been through so much already, you have 3 years left, I believe.
Hmm.
What does success right now look for you? Like personally, what does success look like for you in the locker room? And what do the Hornets want to be in their first year in their FBS?
Right now we're really just focused on ourselves, to be honest. I mean, obviously our main goal right now is to win the MAC, and everyone in that locker room believes we can, everyone in that building believes we can, and we always tell ourselves that like no one else believes in us but us, and so that's our biggest thing. We're just focused on each other, making the offense making the defense better and vice versa, and we're really just focused on being the best us that we could be every day. The small things. We're trying to establish leadership throughout the team and do things on our own. And right now it's honestly so cool to see like that first when we all first got here and the winter whenever we started with Coach Zoe, like we would go through workouts and everyone would just go home, right? Like no one was really getting an extra in. And nowadays it's like every time, every day when we're done with workouts, because the defense will like lift first and then while we're lifting, like the defense is out there doing walkthroughs every day. And it's the same thing. Once we're done lifting, we go out there, we throw every day, we do walkthroughs. We sometimes we'll even do PRPs just on our own. And we'll go over a script from like the day before. And it's just so cool to see how everyone's just so bought into the process. And it's just gonna be fun. We're gonna be good.
Conk, I've been doing this a long time, and you are, I would say, top five most natural throwers of a ball that I've been around. Sometimes you drive me absolutely crazy because you do things that I don't think are needed because you get away with a lot of BS, but you are no doubt talented. You're meant to throw a ball. I want to speak on that, but also how much of that is a priority and how much of it is actually operating in an offense. What do you need more of to be successful as a collegiate quarterback?
Hmm. That's a good question. I think it's like the realistic answer is probably 85% like not throwing a ball. Like people some people just don't understand like how mentally like challenging quarterback is because you got to know what everyone's doing. You got to get the play from the sideline. You got to enunciate the play to all 10 other teammates in the huddle. You got to break the huddle, make sure everyone lines up right. Then you got to call the play. Then you got to run the play all within 24 seconds. Then you got to do it again. It's just, and then that's not even talking about what the defense is showing you. Like there's just so much stuff going on. And the one thing you need as a college quarterback is if you can't break the huddle, if you can't operate the system, you can't even start to play. So the biggest thing is that you just got to know what you're doing within your scheme. Like I know our offense like the back of my hand. I could explain anything to you just because when the bullets are flying, like you're not gonna have time to like, oh, what was this play? Like, what did the diagram show? Like, no, you just gotta go, and you gotta try your best out there. But the the throwing part, you know, it it's hard to explain because for me personally, it's all instinctual once I'm out there and the adrenaline's going. Like once you're out there, you're not really thinking of it like that. It's just muscle memory at that point. Monday through Fridays, that's the homework, that's the practice, but the Saturdays, that's the exam, that's the test, you know, and it's what you do Monday through Friday that's going to show up on that field Saturday. So when the bullets are flying, when it's game time, I'm not really thinking too much about it. I'm just, I've been doing this since I was 5 years old, so it's just to the point where, you know, it's muscle memory at that point. So I'm not really thinking about the throws and that kind of stuff because I know in my preparation that I can do everything that I need to do.
What's your favorite throw?
Ooh, I feel,
I know what my favorite throw of yours is, but I want to hear what your favorite throw is.
I mean, like, I feel like the obvious quarterback answer is like skinny post, but there's just something to me about like just a nice thrown back shoulder fade, like probably 25 yards down the field, so the ball's in the air a little bit. Just a well executed back shoulder is just so clean to me. But
I think you throw a really good glance bang post right off a break. I think
yeah,
you've got to, especially out of like an RPO. I think that's where you look the most comfortable when you get to move your feet a little bit.
hmm
You do throw a hell of a back shoulder and whole shot. You were ripping it today. Um, but yeah, there's no throw I know that you get on the field where you feel like you can't make.
yeah,
And that's fun when you are prepared because now you just
hmm
play, you get to be loose and you get to be you.
yeah,
And I was trying to tell guys, when you're third string backup in college, you're trying to be a yes, sir, yes, man, and do everything they want you to do. And it's hard to be yourself when you're trying to just cross the T's and dot the I's.
yeah,
And it's such a grind because you feel restricted because they haven't given you the keys yet to just be yourself. But once you are the guy, it's almost like do what you need to do, baby. Get it done.
yeah, 100%.
All right, finish this for me. If I could go back to high school, I would do blank differently as a high school quarterback.
There's two things. Um, and I'm gonna go with the less important one, and then I'll get into the more important one for me. I mean, they're both important, but the first thing is really value like the weight room because I know my biggest thing coming out of high school, my recruiting process is that everyone just said I was too skinny. And, at the time I didn't really get it. I was like, isn't that your guys' job is to get me bulkier? But it's very
Your
important,
fault.
Yeah, exactly. So I learned that the hard way is that, really get into the weight room and, diet and really try to be at a, healthy weight and a presentable weight. So when coaches look at you, they don't have anything to say. You never want to give a coach something else to say about you. But I think the second thing for me, and personally probably the most important, was don't take it too seriously. I still try to tell myself that, playing college football, like, yeah, it's like important. And, the higher the level you go, the people's like jobs and families are on the line. But especially in high school, like, it's just a game. Like, don't get caught up in the stars and the recruiting process. Like, you know, 10-year-old you wasn't worried about that. They were just out there with their friends playing football. And, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And I still tell myself that every day when I run on the field, like, I'm blessed enough to play this game for as long as I did. I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm not going to worry about anyone else and, what they're doing. Just worry about yourself and, have fun, go out there and sling the rock.
I love that. I love that. That's fantastic. They need to hear that.
hmm
There's a missing ingredient, which is like the joy and the purity of even high school football is getting taken out of high school football because of the pressure. And
Yeah.
it's good to hear. It's good to
Yeah. I
hear.
remember myself getting caught up in it a lot, especially just because, I would always get yeah, you could throw the ball, but, he's just too small. So, that kind of stuff. So I remember that getting in my head a lot, and it would carry over into my performances and into practice and stuff because I would just be so in my head about it, and I would just get lost in the moment, and I would forget what I was really out there for.
Yeah. When I was interviewing Jalen Daniels, he said similar things. Just even being at with the Bucks right now, it's like it's
Hmm.
obviously a business, but he doesn't want to lose ever that childhood joy of I get to do this still.
Yeah,
I'm blessed to still be able to do this. And I think holding on to that as long as possible is obviously the goal.
yeah, 100%.
I love that. Conk, you are the man. I'm super proud of you. I have I've been in your corner since day one. I've seen and gone with you literally through recruiting and gone through the ups and downs and I still think the best is yet to come, even with the success you've had. Um, you've matured a lot. Your hair looks fantastic, and I can't wait to see what Sac State does in the MAC this year.